Hi, today we're going to make a quick video on how to multiply binomials. And multiplying binomials is not a difficult thing at all, but the first thing you need to know in order to multiply binomials is what a binomial is. So we're going to, there we go, a binomial. A binomial has two pieces, and that prefix bi means two, like bicycle. So we have two pieces, so some examples of a binomial would be something like x plus 2. The plus sign distinguishes the pieces. X is a piece and 2 is a piece. Those each piece individually is called a monomial, and a binomial has two pieces, so x plus 2 is a binomial. Another example would be 2xy plus 4. Again, there are two pieces. Now, minus signs also count as plus signs. Negatives don't, but minus signs do work. So we have x squared y minus 2z. That's another example of a binomial with two pieces. And 3x minus 2y. So these are all examples of binomials. And today what we're going to be doing is we're going to multiply binomials together. So we would take like an x plus 2 and multiply it with a 2xy plus 4. So how do we multiply binomials? Well, when we multiply binomials, what we do is we double distribute. Okay? This is not a difficult thing, and I think many of you have done this before, so that's why this is just a quick video. We're going to do 4 examples, and we're going to use the same numbers for all of them, but we're going to change up the signs, and we're going to see how that affects our results. So what we have here is we're going to take the binomial x plus 2, and we're going to multiply them by x plus 3. Remember, when we have parentheses, that does mean multiply. So when they're right next to each other like that, we're going to multiply, and we're going to expand this out. Okay, so how do we double distribute? We're going to take this first term, the x, and we're going to multiply by everybody in that second binomial. And I always draw the arrows like this when I get started, just to help remind me what to do. X times x is x squared. And I have x times 3. Now the sign goes with the 3, so it's x times a positive 3, which is plus 3x. Okay, we distributed the first guy, so we're done with him. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to distribute this 2 to everyone. We're going to distribute it to the x and the plus 3. So 2 times x is again a positive 2x, and 2 times positive 3 is positive 6. Now when you multiply binomials, what you're going to find out is most of the times, if there's like terms in these two pieces here, you're going to get some things we can simplify. We have a 3x and a 2x here in the middle, and that's 5x. So we always will clean it up. We have x squared plus 5x plus 6. That's how you multiply binomials. We expanded it out to get x squared plus 5x plus 6. What this means, guys, is that this x squared plus 5x plus 6 is equivalent, means exact same thing as what we started with, that x plus 2 times x plus 3. So what we can do is we can write something this way, or we could write it out this way, and they all mean the same thing. And we'll want them in different forms later this chapter. Okay, so now I do want to mention that some of you may have heard the word FOIL before. It's an acronym, actually. There should be dots here. And this stands for first, outer, inner, last. And some of your teachers may have told you before that you can multiply these guys using the FOIL method, and you can. You multiply the first terms, and you get x squared. The outer terms, x times 3, that's the 3x. The inner terms, the 2 and the x, that's the 2x. And the last terms, 2 times 3 is 6. And you'll still get the same thing. I do not like to use the word FOIL because it only works with binomials only, and this double distribute method works for when we multiply trinomials later and other things. So you will not hear me say the word FOIL much in here, but if you say it, it's fine because it does work for this method, but just keep in mind that's the reason I don't say that. Okay? Moving on, we had x plus 2 and x plus 3. Now we're going to have x minus 2 and x minus 3. So again, we're going to distribute the x first. I got x times x squared, x times a negative 3 this time. So this time I have a negative 3x or a minus 3x. Now, when we distribute the next thing, we're going to distribute with its sign included. So we're distributing the negative 2. Negative 2 times x is negative 2x, and negative 2 times negative 3 is plus 6. Be very careful here. When you're multiplying two negatives, you do get a positive. We cannot afford to make sign mistakes in Algebra 2. So really make sure you're being careful. x squared. I have a negative 3x and a negative 2x. When I combine those like terms, I get negative 5x plus 6. And I now know that is equivalent to, it is the exact same thing as when I multiply x minus 2 times x minus 3. X squared minus 5x plus 6. Before, we had all plus signs. Okay, our next example is going to be x minus 2 again, but this time we're going to multiply it with an x plus 3. I'm going to draw the arrows one last time on this example. X times x is x squared. X times a positive 3 this time, because we have a plus 3 there, that's plus 3x. Distribute that negative 2 again, so I have a negative 2x. And this time I have a negative 2 times a positive 3, which that's going to keep a negative 6. You can see there's going to be sign differences already from the last example. X squared plus 3x minus 2x gives us a positive x, just 1x. You can put the 1 there if it makes you feel better, but we usually don't. And then we have a negative 6. This one looks way different than the other two. It just goes to show how important signs are in mathematics. Okay, on this last example, I should kind of separate these so you guys can see a little bit better. I'm going to take the x plus 2 times x minus 3, and this time I'm going to not draw the signs. X times x is x squared, because I'm going to distribute the x first. X times negative 3 is negative 3x. I'm going to distribute a positive 2 this time. 2 times x is positive 2x. 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. That gives me x squared. Now I have a negative 3x plus 2x. That's going to give me negative 1x, or negative x minus 6. If you guys draw the arrows every single time, that will be fine. That's not a big deal. But I know some of you like to have a little bit neater work, so I'm going to show you how you can do it without showing those arrows. Okay, next example. What if our binomials are a little more complicated? Like, say, 2x plus 7 times 4x minus 5. Does anything change? No. It's just a little more complicated. Some people definitely would want to draw arrows here so they don't confuse themselves. 2x times 4x, that gives us 8x squared. 2x times the negative 5, be very careful, is negative 10x. Now we're going to go to the 7. 7 times the 4x plus 28x. 7 times negative 5 is negative 35. Like terms show up here, a little bit bigger numbers, but that doesn't mean anything. We can handle bigger numbers. Negative 10x plus 28x is positive 18x. And we saw that negative 35. That is equivalent to our two binomials being multiplied together here. Just another way of writing them. Okay, the last type of thing I want to show you, and this is what you're going to see a lot of this chapter, is a lot of times in math, you'll see things that look like this. We see, say, the x plus 2 quantity squared. And some students do this problem incorrectly. They want to distribute the square in here, and that's not how you do that. X plus 2 quantity squared means that I'm taking the binomial x plus 2, and I'm multiplying it by itself, which is x plus 2. That looks just like problems we've seen already. So I'm going to strongly encourage you, especially as you start Algebra 2 this year, is when you see something like this, immediately write it like this if you are told to expand it. Okay? So then we have an easy problem just like we were working on. X times x is x squared. X times 2 is plus 2x. Now we're going to go to the middle one. 2 times x is plus 2x again. 2 times 2 is plus 4. Clean it up. X squared plus 4x plus 4. That is the same thing as x plus 2 quantity squared. If you did that incorrectly, what would you be missing? You would be missing this really important part, that 4x, because you would do x squared plus 4. So that's the incorrect way of doing it. Okay, now let's try another example here. X minus 5 quantity squared. What does that really mean? Well, that means x minus 5 is being multiplied by x minus 5. I'll double distribute. X squared. I'm going to be careful of my signs. Minus 5x. Take this guy, negative 5x plus 25. I get x squared minus 10x plus 25. Some of you may see already, but what happens when we have these expressions that are squared, quantities that are squared, the middle terms will always match. And that gives us a shortcut that we can do later, and I'll address that in a second. So let's say I have 2x minus 3 squared. What does it mean? Well, it means 2x minus 3 times 2x minus 3. 2x times 2x, that's 4x squared. This one's a little more complicated. 2x times negative 3, negative 6x. We should get a repeat here, and look, we do. Negative 3 times 2x is that negative 6x again. Negative 3 times negative 3 is plus 9. So I get 4x squared minus 12x plus 9. That equals the same thing as this 2x minus 3 quantity squared. So there is a shortcut you can do. Let's say 7. If you have a quantity squared, and I encourage you to expand it every time so you don't make a mistake, but you could technically square the first term, x squared, multiply these two together, which is 7x, and then since the 7x will show up twice, you can double it. It's 14x, and then square the last term, 49. Even if it was a minus sign, it will still work. Square the first term, x squared, multiply these two together, and I get negative 5x, double it, negative 10x, negative 5 squared is plus 25. Because the sign would hold if you multiplied it together. This shortcut method, if you will, does cause more mistakes, so I encourage you to go ahead and expand it the long way, especially if it's a test or quiz. But the more and more problems you do, the quicker you'll get at these. Okay? Now you guys can try these. I would pause the video and try these 3 problems. I'm not going to work through them. I'm just going to write the answers down, and if you have any questions, you can come see me at class before or after. Okay, so go ahead and pause the video, try to work these out and see if you get what I'm getting. I get x squared minus 2x minus 35 for this one. Those two expressions are equivalent. For this one, I get 15x squared plus 2x minus 24. Equivalent notations there. And what do I have here? X squared minus 14x plus 49. And 9x squared minus 30x plus 25. Okay, that's how you multiply binomials, and hopefully you now know what you're doing.